Welcome to Conversations on Resilient Leadership. I'm Jim de Vries, founder of Enhance International Group and your host for today's episode. This podcast series is where we dive deep into the minds of leaders who have not only navigated with uncertainty, but have even emerged stronger and more innovative and more resilient. Whether you're a seasoned executive or an emerging leader, each episode offers you unique access to the strategies and insights of top leaders who are redefining leadership in today's dynamic environment. Today, we have the privilege of sitting down with a remarkable leader, Marty Jacknis, president of Opportunity Maximizers from a great state of Florida. I've had the pleasure of working with Marty for the last 4 or 5 years, and he has had a lifetime of successes in many different businesses. He is consistently ranked in the top 3% nationally in sales at IBM when they were number 1 in the world. Marty was also a co-founding partner in charge of business program development, talent acquisition, raising capital, and creating a vision and culture for a company that was rated as the 6th fastest growing private company in the United States by Inc. magazine. He's presented over 200 half-day sessions for Vistage CEOs who have led companies with sales ranging to 5 million to 1 billion. Today's Marty is a well-respected professional speaker, coach, change management, and confidant who delivers customized results through action-oriented strategies, tactics, techniques, and insights that individuals can immediately apply to both their business and their personal lives. I can personally attest to Marty's leadership, openness, honesty, integrity, and energy. What can I say about Marty? He's truly one of a kind, and he has a unique ability to make the complex simple and engaging. Welcome to the podcast, Marty.
Thank you, Jim.
It's really great to have you here. I'm very excited about this podcast. We've been talking about it for a while, and I'm sure it's going to be a lot of fun to hear your insights, your introspections, your personal rise to the top of leadership, which is a very interesting story and can't wait to get to it. So here we go. First question here is, what does leadership mean to you, Marty?
Leadership means a lot of things, Jim. Leadership is relative to a time, a place, and a situation. I had someone at a cocktail party, and we had some appetizers and those little pigs in a blanket. And he picked up one and tried to swallow it. It was too hot. So he tried to swallow it, and it got caught in his air pipe. And all of a sudden, he's going like this and holding his mouth, and his wife gets behind him, is trying to squeeze him and stuff, and saying, Marty, I need help. I don't know what I'm doing. And I went to the Heimlich thing class, and I get behind him, and I'm putting my arms around him and realizing it's 11 minutes to get, EMTs to get there and 4 minutes for someone to die without air. And I realized this man's life is in my hands. So I was ready to go do this, and I didn't want to hurt him. And I said, I'd rather save him than hurt him. So I pulled, and the hot dog flew out of his mouth, and I saved the man. And it was an interesting thing. So I was a leader at that moment. Okay. No one else knew what to do. So it's relative to a time and place for almost everyone could be a leader at some point in time. When we get to business, you need different skills and background and education and decision-making processes than an average person. So we're talking about those kind of people right now. And the ones that I respect are the ones that go in and immediately have a meaningful, motivating vision that everyone buys into and wants to turn that vision into reality. And he earns the respect of those people and the board and the investors and the customers. So it's relative to a place and time. The biggest one is really their decision-making and their ability to get everyone to create a company and a process of opportunity maximization to harvest all that untapped opportunity. Innovation, we have to be innovating, and it's happening by this nanosecond. Proactive introspection, because we have to learn from the past to make our futures better, and continuous improvement. So it's a unique group, but the answer is it's relative to a time and place and person. So everyone in their whole life at some point in time can be a leader. And the good leaders are the ones that make informed decisions and stay current and earn the respect of those around them.
I love that. And I just love what you said there. I mean, just to think about leadership as it's relative to a time and place. That's very, very, very unique perspective. And we all have opportunities to become a leader.
Yeah.
And it's the question is, do you step up? And how do people perceive you when you do step up? And if you step up well, you'll be probably more confident to step up the next time. And maybe that's the start of the journey. What do you think?
And Jim, it's when we have a war to fight, whether it's a business war or a real war, and you're the general, wouldn't it be nice to know before you said charge if everyone's going to run in lockstep up the hill with you or even in front of you, or they're going to stay there or run in the other direction and say good luck? So the good leaders know if we should go in the war or not. And do I have a team that will go with me on that and make the right decisions? Yeah.
That's fantastic introspection. Thanks, Marty. With that, a little tricky question here on inspirational leaders. I mean, we all have leaders that inspire us, but you as a leader yourself, I'm sure you inspire many people over the years. Can you share with those past circumstances with or situations with your different folks that you've been coaching? I'm sure they were looking at you as a leader, but maybe who they looked at as leaders that helped them aspire to become better at leadership.
In business, I had a friend, and we both, when we started, as friends is 20 years old, and I was working in IBM, and he was a speech writer for an insurance company. And we would we commuted to New York, together on this 5 o'clock train, and we coached each other. And then he got promoted, and then he wound up being a VP at that company. Then he became a president of a division of another major company, and then ultimately wound up getting a job as a president and then chairman of a Fortune 100 company. And every one he went into, he took from 5% growth to like 37% growth. And people came in and said, I can't do anything. We're at 400 million. I think we're only gonna be the same next year. They brought him in and he basically took it to $1 billion. And every year he wants to create 25% new products and services that didn't exist the last year that allow us to do that. So he's an out-of-the-box thinker and really brought on really good people, and he delegated authority and responsibility to those folks. And I've never seen anyone so consistently take companies from where they are to where they should be and could be.
So I think that brings up an interesting question for me is, we have lots of leaders of companies that want to maintain the 10% net income and the revenue, and they're more guarding the fort, so to speak, than growing outwards. What quality or attribute makes that leader want to grow? Because there seems to be so few leaders that are really doing that out there today. What sets them apart, and what can we all learn? What can all leaders learn of changing their mindset to growth versus protection of their 10% net income?
I think it's self-limiting beliefs and not looking at the world differently. I believe there's massive untapped and unleveraged opportunities surrounding all of us at all times, just waiting to be harvested. But
Yeah.
unfortunately, most individuals and leaders are suffering what I call opportunity blindness, which inhibits them from seeking, seeing, seizing their respective untapped opportunities. So we have to shatter that self-limiting belief. And I also do an exercise. I present it to 200 groups of 15 CEOs for half-day sessions. And if I said, you guys don't think well, plan well, communicate well, or make decisions well, they'll say, Marty, leave. So I do an exercise that they all have to participate in. And it's sobering because they realize they're totally undershooting all that stuff that's in front of them. So I'm taking glasses off, blinders off, and I'm giving them opportunity maximizing lenses and filters so they can see themselves in the world through different lenses and realize there's massive opportunities there. So you have to let someone know they don't know and the consequences of not knowing or embracing a new idea. And they have to understand that every minute there's someone out there trying to put us out of business. Okay. So we're on a treadmill that's going higher and faster all the time. And we have to think almost, I read Elon Musk's book, and this man, he goes farther to most, sometimes too far.
He's a maximizer for sure, isn't he?
He's an absolute maximizer. And if we just did 1/4 of his thinking, we would double and triple our businesses. And I've one of my clients now tripled 4 businesses in a row, 300% growth in all of them by just some simple things and just challenging some self-limiting beliefs. So I think it's someone stepping back and letting them realize that their inhibitors are perceptions. And we have to say, what are the opportunity maximizing enhancers that we have to embrace, and what are the inhibitors we have to eliminate? And all of a sudden, you'll start seeing it happen, and it's kind of cool. So I want to give people different lenses and filters so they can see themselves, their competition, their industry, and what's going on, so they can make informed decisions and very quickly, increase where they're going.
Yeah, I look at America, which, we had a lot of manufacturing in the past, and a lot of that manufacturing is gone. I mean, 50% of our manufacturing has left since 2010, which is pretty scary. What would you say to those small manufacturers that are still hanging on? And what would you say to folks that are looking to, maybe 2 different questions? What would you say to the folks that are hanging on and, to help them grow their businesses and maximize them? And what would you say to new young entrepreneurs who are looking to set up manufacturing in the US? That's one of our biggest questions out here in the industry today.
The first thing is we all should take a moment and reflect. And when COVID hit and I started writing some books, I realized I did a journey of proactive introspection. In everyone's life, there's at least 6 days or events that were disproportionately more impactful and powerful than all the others. And there's life lessons there that'll make our 7th and subsequent days better. So let's look back of who we are, what we are realistically. And there's 6 individuals in someone's life that were very positive to them. Who were they? What they do more different and better? Have we appropriately thanked them? And going forward, how can we be a positive soul? So we have to go and look back and then take a current situational assessment. Where am I? And was my old vision wrong? Are there things that I just can't do? I can't tomorrow decide with you that I want to start a new Amazon. I just don't have $1 trillion handy and all the things he did. I can maybe complement his business or do certain niche things, but a lot of people are running after things that in my life I couldn't do. Okay, I can get other people or whatever, but you have to take a look and take reasonable steps, okay, and understand the consequence of going there or not. And then change is happening so rapidly. There's a technological tidal wave and knowledge tsunami happening right now. And when I joined IBM, we had the first one. I had to go and take people how they need computers to do doing manually. So I had to teach all these people all the new things. Like now, this is just version 2 of that. It's just this tidal wave is going faster and higher, and it's going to affect negatively and positively a heck of a lot more people than the first one did. Okay, so but it's an opportunity for the ones who really want to get on that change train, and it's something should be terrifying to the folks who don't know they should or can't or won't do that. So we have to understand where we are, and is my business going to be obsolete going in the future? But then we have to go and do a personal assessment. What are my skills and capabilities? And all of us have tons of different capabilities and skills. And there are places, many places in the world where we can plant our seed and have that garden grow well. But if you really want to go into the Amazon garden, you need a different set of skills and resources. So the answer is it's relative to a point in time. And those people who got to be presidents or leaders certainly have some of those skill sets. The question is in one of my new things in the book's going to be starting from childhood or early childhood. Every day we're saying, I'm here, but I think I want to go there. We're making 3,500 decisions every day, and most of them are around moving from our current here to our desired there. And we have to make informed decisions. So the real question is, we have to sit back and take a look at ourselves and where are we? What skills do we have? Where can we plant our seed in a garden which will thrive and prosper? Okay. So the answer is it's relative, but it's really honestly looking at yourself and then getting back to saying, what do I love to do? Because when I talk to people about business, every day I want you to get up and say, I love what I'm doing. And they recognize me for me, they appreciate me for me, and even compensate me well for that. And there's too many people every day getting up doing something that they don't like to do, and it's going to give them early heart attacks and all that sort of thing. So it's taking a step back and also creating a decision support team that can help you make more informed decisions. It's a thing called Vistage. It's one of the country's largest CEO organizations. About 40,000 presidents belong, and they run companies from 5 million to about 1 billion. I was very fortunate to be a member for 17 years there and a speaker for 25 years. And I spoke to 200 of these sessions, half-day sessions. And it was really amazing. All these people were smart enough to know that they don't know, and they wanted to create intelligent decision support teams. Someone's good in finance and accounting and you name it. So it was every month we're exposed to new ideas, and we can get in front of the group and say, this is an issue or opportunity, what do you think? And they really attack it in a very wonderful way. So we all increase our probability of success. And in a company, you should be creating decision support partners and teams, to really tap into the thinking, because that guy who's on the assembly line probably knows more than we do if we had to double it or triple it. So there's a lot of things we can do by thinking differently and not staying here, but realizing what's happening in our areas of expertise. Is there going to be change the iPhone every 6 months? They have to have new features, or they're going to lose billions of phone holders. Okay, so these guys are on very, very fast, treadmills and that sort of thing. So again, it's relative, but most people aren't looking back systematically and making informed decisions. I had a situation with a client who was one of the Vistage members, brought me in and he says, Marty, we had a private meeting. My company's 126 years old. My father made me become president. We're doing terrible right now. We're losing $1 million. I'm very upset. We have to lay off 17 good people that I respect. And I just want to get out of here. I want to sell the damn thing. And I said, wait a minute. Before we sell it, let's figure out where you want to go and what you want to do. And selling something which is losing money is not as smart as selling something which is making money. So we made up a decision criteria. Do you want to be a chief or Indian? Do you want to travel or not? What are the criteria? And then across the top of the thing, what are the different places you think you can go? I said, before we prioritize those criteria, I said, before we do that, let's take a look at your current job. This matches, this matches, this matches, this. My friend, you're where you should be. You're just angry at your father for making you, take the presidency, which you didn't want to do, and you're angry that it's not going well. Why don't we just fix it? And why don't you write a nasty, 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 horrible letter to your father telling him how you really feel, but don't send it. Just get it out of your chest so you can focus on business and not make an emotional decision. Let's make an informed decision. So in those days, we did a Green Beret meeting and took the team together because it was an 18 to 36 month lead time to build one of the things that they would do and make money. So we had to make money in between. So we did an untapped and unleveraged opportunity audit and then treasure hunt, and went 9 months from $1 million loss to $1 million profit. And the next 3 years did over $100 million of new business in a new industry, because we used a cartoon and different way of educating people why we were better than all the others in that industry. So you just have to step back and realize, are you making informed or emotional decisions? And then you have to go out, and if you want to market, you have to differentiate your offerings because people want to know, they don't care about you, they care about the outcomes of you, and they want to know why you're better than all the other available alternatives.
Great learnings there. So go back to the questions here on coaching. You're obviously a leadership coach. You're very good at it. When did that all start for you?
I can tell you it was exactly on the 17th of July in 1992. Okay. And I was given the opportunity to run a class for GE, a 1-week class for their people. And the first day of the class, I told them, look, I want you each to do a 4-minute presentation about what are the products or services you're working with. Just want to see how you are on your feet and what we're currently saying. And they start working on it. And this new young girl comes in and says, Marty, I was just hired 2 weeks ago. I don't know anything about their products and services, and you want me to talk about it? And I said, look, don't worry. If you know any product or service you want to talk about, fine, or tell a story or a poem. I just want to see how you are. And she was really like, it was like oil and water with us. So basically, and she spoke well. We went and I did experiential exercises and sent them out to do negotiating, like where we're going to have our class dinner and who gets the best thing and why, and also to say where can we negotiate better, and also where can we get things free. And they come back with all this stuff. And they came back with jars from one restaurant that looked like gold. Gold, the jams and jellies, and really kind of. So the last day of class, we have this huge desk there with all the stuff. And I picked up one, and I'm holding it, and I said, I really enjoyed this week and what you guys did, getting out of your comfort zones and looking at yourself and the world differently. And I appreciate what you've done. I'd like you to share with the rest of the class, each one of you, what you think about the class and the school. If you want changes, you want a better speaker, whatever, fine. I just want to be honest. And what are you going to do? And what are the desired outcomes you want to have, and by when? Is that fair? They said yes. And we recorded it actually. And so everyone gets up and they hold this. And then the young girl gets up. And she says, I want to tell you a story. And she says, there was a village, and the villagers were out in this field, and it was dusty and rocky and sandy, and it was humid and miserable, and had these ancient tools, and they're working it, and a messenger comes down from the mountain. He says, we can't go on like this. We have to go to different pastures. We have to do different things. We can't stay the way we are, and we have to move on. And they think he's kind of crazy. And finally, after a while, one by one, they leave their tools and they start following them. And X number of miles away, there's a beautiful field next to a beautiful lake. He says, wow, it's so fertile and it's so easy. And we can always make sure we have water for it. Well, let's stay here. He says, I understand that, but our journey's not over. And they shrug. And we have to go up the mountain. So they start following them. And all of a sudden, the terrain is changing. There's higher trees, there's shade, there's a stream, and with fish. Wow, we can be fishermen, and there's game. Okay, so we can get even better food and sustenance for our villages. This is really kind of cool. And he says, I understand that, but we have to finish our journey. And they look, and it's getting a little later, and the wind's picking up. It's getting a little drizzly, and even it's hard climbing this mountain like this. It's arduous. And finally, after a lot of work and effort, they make it to the top. And they're huddled underneath this rock, outcropping of rocks. And he's by the edge. And they say, what now? He says, your journey's not over. They say, what? You have to come here to the edge. And their eyes widen. They say, we can't do that. It's slippery. It's dangerous. I'm going to get hurt. I can get killed. Finally, he keeps talking, and one by one, they come to the edge. And when they did, he pushed them off, and they flew. And she looked at me and says, Marty, thank you for teaching us how to fly. Jim, that changed my life.
Yeah.
I didn't know what to do. I wanted to cry. I wanted to hide.
Wow.
I didn't know how to react to that. And so when you said that, and going back in my journeys, That girl was one of the people in my life, and that event was one of the events in my life. And
That's one fantastic story, Marty. Thanks for
yeah,
sharing that with us.
okay.
That is really, really cool. Thank you. Next question. I'm sure you had many turning points in your career where you wanted to achieve your goals and to be a leadership coach or just to succeed in life. Can you share with us any of those turning points in your life, uh, you know, in your career? I mean, you obviously just shared a really good one. Is there other times that in your life that you kind of like you thought you were going in one direction and then you ended up a different direction and you're thankful for it?
Jim, I was a horrible student. I think I had a learning disability. I was 405th out of 412 kids in high school, junior year. Didn't know in my senior year to the last day of school if I graduate my class. I couldn't get into a regular college, so I got into like a startup college for like a semester to earn the right to get into a local college. Okay. Uh, I met my sweetheart in college and got married a week after graduation. And I was doing important things like Amway, short order cook, any job I could do. And my mother-in-law said, Marty, get a real job, go to IBM. And IBM was like number one in the world then. Okay. And a couple of weeks earlier, I sent a resume to Procter and Gamble. And it's amazing how fast rejection letters come. Okay. So I knew I was going to get rejected. And my first degree was industrial relations and personnel. So I walked in off the street to IBM and they said, kid, we don't hire kids for that function here. You have to go to Armonk, New York. So all of a sudden, they're not even hiring what I wanted to do. And he says, it looks like you should be in sales or something. I'll give you two choices, kid. I can throw you out now or let you speak to the sales manager, then I'll throw you out. Okay. So I said, I'll take B. I walk into this office. This guy has this incredible three-piece suit and like Steve McQueen, the old Thomas Crown Affair, and just really cool things. And so partway through the discussion, I asked for my application back. And he looked at me like, why do you want that? And so I took it and took a pen and crossed out what I was asking for salary and added thousands of dollars to it and gave it back to him. And he looked at it and he was looked all kinds of tortured. And he said, why'd you do that? I said, I was applying for personnel. It's a staff function, cost doing business. Sales, I'm really good. I'll make you a lot of money. I'm worth it. I wish I recorded his face. He turned around and offered me a job on the spot. In the next 8 years, I was in the top 2% nationally selling for IBM. And it takes 3 years to earn the opportunity to even make the golden circle. I made 3 successive ones in a row, averaging over 300% a year, and changed my life. They gave me the best education in the world. Awesome. They paid for my master's. That changed my life in many ways. And also, they taught us how to wear three-piece suits and cross pants and white shirts and
White shirts.
shoes. And they said, you're 21, you're going to be selling people who are 50 and 60. And I think, I don't want to think you're a kid, but I want to say, I think that's me younger. Okay, something like that. So day one, they were training me to really sell decision makers and top level people and always sell top down. And they gave me the best education in the world. Went from there to, things selling multi-million-dollar tax leverage leases and things like that. So I was very fortunate to have the best education in the world from the number one company in the world. And then go out and I then went and this other company was on track to being the fastest growing billion-dollar, company. They were at 880 million. They were going after the top 2%ers. So they gave me a deal of a lifetime. So I leave IBM. 7 months went by and I didn't make a sale. And here, what a fool I was. I was in the top at IBM. I knew how to do that, like no problem doing all that stuff. I had the best resources in the world. And now I'm going to be the biggest failure in the world. So I made a call on a company in Wall Street. And I met with the leasing man, and he said, gee, Marty, I just signed a 3-year lease. I'm sorry, you're a little late on this. In 3 years, why don't you come early, and I'll be happy to consider what you have. And I was ready to leave, and my mind, I call bumblebee moments. And I never planned to do this, but I said to him, do you know a lot about leasing? He says, yes, I do. I said, I don't, and I'm new. Can I buy you lunch? Because I'd like to understand leasing from a customer's point of view. He said, it'd be my pleasure. We wound up with 3 different, lunches, and he gave me some really good ideas. And he was a track coach and even had me run better and faster. And what happened is the stock market changed from 29 million share days to almost 80. And he ran out of his 3 years of capacity in 3 months and needed to put out another bid. He says, Marty, would you like to bid on this? So I wound up bidding on it, and I won a multi-million-dollar deal. And 2 weeks later, another multi-million-dollar deal, and wound up getting a cable from the president saying, we'd like you to come to Las Vegas for the leaders conference and average 300% there. So there's things that happen in your life, and a lot of times you have to listen to your mind and your gut. And a lot of times you have to take the road less traveled, because I wasn't qualified to go through the normal doors. And so try things there's more than one way of making it happen, and always consider the other alternatives. Anyway, that saved my future. I never failed.
I love the story. I mean, take every turn in the road as an opportunity. Don't take it as you thought you were going a straight line, but maybe making a few turns might make you much stronger than you would have otherwise. Put you in the express lane, so to speak, maybe.
And it's not as crowded when you take the other door.
Yeah, often isn't. That's right. That's a great.
Right, yeah.
I love that. Great story. Thanks, Marty. Appreciate it. Next question here is, what are some of the most difficult challenges you've personally had to overcome in your career?
Probably balancing my home life with my business life. Because I got to my first day on the job at IBM, they made me sit with 3 of the top end sales consultants from all the elite universities. And here I was from this nothing university, right? And they said, Marty, what do you think of the new modem? And I said, what's a modem? Oh, Marty, it's a modulator, demodulator. And I'm thinking, what's a modulator? Oh, Marty, it takes a bit stream and a parity bit, goes 1200, 4800 baud. I'm saying, what's a bit stream? What's a parity? What's a baud? I got a job here. I can't even speak to these guys over lunch, And then I kept asking questions. And I finally came to something which changed my life. I realized that in those days, computers had to communicate over phone lines. And between the computer and the phone line, they put a box called a modem, which turns the beep into a boop that the phone line understands. At the other end, another box turns the boop back into a beep. So you can communicate, depending on how much information, how fast, you buy a bigger or smaller box. And that changed my life, because I learned how to unconsciously and intuitively communicate the complex simply, so I and even CEOs could understand. So if you're like me and didn't have the education, and you ask questions in a sincere way, and you can get it, because even today we're going with these new technological changes. These people they can spell AI, but how are we going to use this thing? And by the time you learn about it, next week it'll have different features and functions that might even be obsolete by then. So we have an obsolescence world. So one of the things we'll need as individuals, whatever level you go to, is the ability to speak in the language and perspective of the person you're talking to, and make the complex as simple as you can to communicate, just like I like to use stories.
Mm-hmm. No, you're the master storyteller for sure. So, what secrets from your perspective are there to becoming a great leader?
Again, doing a self-assessment first, and you have to have passion for what you're doing every day. People are looking at you, and they want to see someone who sees something and helps you see what they see, and all of a sudden get them excited. I want the whole organization doing that. And it's important. I want my organization. You have to earn the respect of your team, and they have to know that you care. And every year we used to make out major bonuses, for the holidays. It used to be Christmas bonus, then it became holiday, checks. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and we hardly ever got someone calling and saying thank you. It became an entitlement. So when our big holiday party was coming up, in those days I went to the bank and got a bunch of the old silver dollars, the big ones, the real silver ones, and I got bank sacks, and I had 100 in each of the sacks for one sack for each employee. So I go into the meeting and I have this like weird barrel of these sacks, and I asked Hanif to come on. Hanif, we're number one in the world at what we do, and it's not for one reason; it's 100 reasons, and you're one of those 100. And I want to give you a little special thing here, saying that you are special. This is different than other things. You can't spend it for getting gas or something like that. It has to be to pamper yourself or your family, do something special, or give to charities and whatever. And they, even though I gave them the other checks, they just went crazy. The next year, I remember that movie Risky Business. I got a black outfit and had a hat and sunglasses, and I got a satchel full of packs of $52 bills, and each employee's name was on one of these packs. And I walk in and I'm looking around like this, and then I open it up and pour it on this little table. And I said, this is real money, but it's worth more than, it's worth twice as much as the dollars that you probably have in your pocket. And the same thing, and two means teamwork, two means synergy, two means we'll probably double again next year. And I just wanted to say thank you, in a different way. And with the same rules, you have to use it for yourself and whatever. And the third year, I went and I like chocolate, I'm a chocoholic. I went to a wonderful bakery, and they make these 2 foot or more tall chocolate bunnies or chocolate, Christmas trees or sleighs. And I got one for each employee and had them laid out on this big table. And I said, okay, I want you to pick one of these, and I want you to, early in the week, I want you to put it as a centerpiece for your holiday table. And every time you walk by, I want you to realize you're the centerpiece of our company.
Wow.
And 10 years later, after I retired from there, they asked me to come back and speak to a group of presidents. I'm walking down the hall, and one of the employees came over, and she hugs me and has tears in her eyes and says, I still have my $2 bills and the silver dollars.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
So you have to do things to let people know that you really care. And it's not about me, it's about us and what we bring to our customers and to society and our families. And so those extra little steps, when I was getting a award from IBM in my local branch, the branch manager comes up, Marty, come on up here. We want to thank you for everything you did. But right now, Marty, someone's ringing your doorbell at your house and has 24 long red roses and a large Bloomingdale gift certificate for your bride, because you couldn't be as successful without support at home. So it's those little things that good leaders do to let people know that that we have a heart.
Beautiful stories, Marty. All right, so we're going to close out this section on leadership, resilient leadership, with a question that you see almost in every other blog, I think, on management and leadership. And obviously, there's a difference between being a manager and a leader, and a big difference. And I'd love to hear your perspective on this topic.
There is a big difference. But again, when we talked to our first discussion today, was it's relative to a time, a place, and a situation. And a lot of people can manage certain things, but to lead, you need more. You really have to understand the economics. You have to understand the competition. You have to understand rules and regulations and legislation. There's so many things that you have to know. And the good leaders know they don't know and make sure they put those resources around them. Good managers have expertise in an area, and they know if they keep doing this and keep doing that, it's fine. So it's having maybe more exposure or education or self-concept. These people might be brilliant, but they're too shy to ask people to do things, okay? Or people know that you're going to love me, or you're going to love me well or hate me well, okay? But
Mhm.
so you need dynamic leaders who can make those hard decisions and the soft decisions. And so it's usually a different personality, and there's different skills that are must skills that other people can't have.
That's great introspective. Thank you. Thank you for. We'll move on to the second part of the discussion, and that is about the state of the state of the world, of the economy, and how do we help these leaders lead through this tumultuous time. What do you say to those leaders with all your expertise in coaching leaders? What would you say to them? How do you help them navigate where we're going?
When I was started speaking, they had the speakers lounge and guys were there making like spaghetti diagrams. I said, "What's that?" "Oh, this is mind mapping." You know, and now it's computerized. And it's a wonderful technique where you're using left brain and right brain to look at a situation. And what I always do, I always think of the worst case first. Okay. And say, what do I do if everything went to hell? Then I'm saying, if everything went really well, what do I do and where do I go? So I cover the range of possible, granted, the probability might be very low that we're going to all be in soup lines or something like that here, but that can happen. And I always said, if I'm with the right person or mate, I can stay in the pup tent and forage for food if we have to, but prefer not to do that and try and increase my probability of success of being at least in something a bigger tent. So what happens is you have to take a look at the range of possibilities and at least know that if everything failed, you can protect your family, you can at least have enough food and you'll survive, even though it's a totalitarian state or whatever it is, and something that's not desirable, and see if we can somehow change, to the better in the future. So one is at least get your fear factor gone by saying, okay, if that happened, what's the worst that'll happen? And I'm not going to shoot myself. So that sort of, and then you start saying, okay, then there's a series of things that could happen positively, or how could I be part of that change? So it's really playing a lot of what if scenarios, just like when they had those war games, and they're saying with the missiles and things like that, what do you do if they do this and that, whatever. And I think we should be doing that mentally and mind map it if you want, type of thing. And it'll get rid of fear and apprehension. It might make you feel bad because you may not like what you're seeing, but at least you can prepare for it and get a place in the country somewhere, whatever it might be. But I think all you can do is take a look at the range of possibilities and the percent chance you think each one has, and then spend your time on the things that have the highest probability of at least go through the scenario of saying, what happens if? And just, and not just
From an opportunity maximization perspective. So how do you look at those risks and transform that into, and you've hinted at it, but just pull out a little bit more out on your thought process here, because I think it's really valuable for people to hear, is how do you transform those risks, which, through the mind mapping exercise, and turn those into creating new opportunities for growth that you wouldn't have thought of otherwise.
when I was in high school, there was a girl named Wendy, gorgeous girl, personality of the month. Everyone was dying to go out with Wendy, and so was I. And I wanted to ask her out, but I had this pimple on my nose, and I didn't want to put her through the angst of having to reject me and me being rejected. So I never asked her. But it wasn't a real pimple; it was a psychological pimple, Okay. And 5 years later, I was walking through town, and who do I run into but Wendy? And I says, Wendy, you're as beautiful as ever. I was dying to go out with you. And she said, Marty, I was dying to go out with you, but in those days it wasn't proper for girls to ask boys out. And I sat
That's a
there
lesson.
and I was saying, what would my life been like if
Yeah.
I asked her? one is she would have said yes, I would have probably passed out, but she would have probably said yes. And if she didn't, she's nice enough, she'd let me down easy or introduce me to a girlfriend so I can go to the dance with her girlfriend. So the upside was huge. But
Yeah.
if I say I'm not going to do that and say no, not good. So I never accept the initial no when you know it's best for all parties. And I've done things that are highly improbable, people think impossible. Okay. And just by asking for things, like walking into IBM, come, they say, Marty, you're crazy to do that. Or all these different things that the doors were always open for me. So I'm an optimist and not crazy, but it's amazing how many times the door really is open. And if it isn't open, well, let me tell you a story. My son-in-law, bright young man, met my daughter at Syracuse, and he was an engineering major and was in this very nice fraternity. And what happened is he came to me and he went and got a job at Carrier selling $1 million cooling machines. And after that, for 3 years, and he got a job at GE selling something for 3 years. He says, Marty, I know how to sell now. I want to be a manager. I say, you want to be a manager? You have to put together a resume. So we put a resume together, and I said, well, we have to find somewhere to go to call. He said, well, they only have internal postings. The only thing I saw was a division of GE that they needed someone who could manage 15 to 30 people, and a division I know nothing about, and the products and services I know nothing about, and the people that I'd manage are only twice my age. I said, Dane, we have nothing to lose. Let's learn and have a practice one. So I said, okay, what are the things they're going to ask you? Dane, how can I hire you to be a manager when you never managed anybody? How can you manage people twice your age? How could you manage when you don't know the division or the products or service? So we went, I said, Dane, weren't you like one of the leaders or influencers in your fraternity and older people respect you? Yeah, okay, good. Didn't you go from one company and product and service to another very quickly? In both cases, mastered what you're doing? So we went through and we said, what are all the questions that someone would ask you? So he goes on the interview, and about 3/4 of the way through, he's smiling, and the interviewer says, Dane, why are you smiling? He says, because you're asking me all the questions I thought an astute executive might ask me. They says, Dane, can I see your list? And he took the list out. It was every question that they asked so far in the order, in 3 questions they didn't even think about. And then they said, Dane, what would you do here, here, and here? So the executive says, Dane, you're a nice guy. I really appreciate the work you did, but they'd fire me because by our criteria, I can't hire someone. But if you want, it'll help you on your journey. I'll let you go through an interview with the president and one of these guys who's like twice your age. You want to? So then we met, and I said, okay, well, what's the president want? How fast can Dane go from being, a good salesman to being a good manager? So I put together a 90-day plan with him. Okay. And then how are you going to work with these people? They went on the interviews, and after they're done, they sent him back to that executive. And he says, Dane, you're a really bright young guy. I know you're going to do really well wherever you do. I hope this helped you in your planning for your future. And I liked, what you did. The president only said one thing. He says, hire him. And they hired him for the job. He wound up running like a $500 million business and would have probably saved them 5 years. So basically, when you want to go somewhere, we had nothing to lose. And we expected to get rejected. And they made his 90-day plan, the plan they used for that $1 billion division. It was really kind of cool. So that's the kind of thinking we have to have. And if you at least ask the question, and remember, don't accept no if you know it's best for all parties. You can ask questions, why? And it might be that no if, no when, but there's only like a 30% chance it's a real no. So a lot of people accept the no too much. And then if you want to do something, go and ask someone, an uncle, a friend, a consultant, whatever it is. And all of a sudden, there are many, many doors you can take, which will either get you where you want to go or get you directly where you want to go. Yeah.
Yeah. And if my memory serves me right, you might have used mind map with that.
Yes. Yes. I use mind map for everything.
Yeah.
Because it forces you to look at the totality of all the things that you have. And my mind is like that, but it brings some sanity to my mind. And because the ideas keep coming, but this one maybe I need later, but it's at least there on the list. Going back to that same thing I talked earlier, it's reconsidering my here versus my there, and the consequences of staying here or going there, or even a different there. And it's us making more informed, critical decisions. And there's a critical decision-making crisis in Ohio State, and McKinsey did a study and said that up to 50% of the companies that failed were a direct result of uninformed critical decision-making. And so these are unnecessary. And in 2016, 400,000 companies of a certain size and type started and 470,000 failed. That meant that up to 235,000 companies unnecessarily failed. If they had 10 employees, that's 2.3 million people lost their jobs. If we add a spouse and a kid, that's over 7 million people unnecessarily are in poverty right now. So we have to learn how to make informed decisions personally and professionally going forward, and do some current situational assessments, and then do possibilities thinking of where I want to go and why, and what are the consequences of doing it or not. So sort of.
So that's great, introspect. Thank you so much, Marty. Next question is about, overcoming challenges and how companies can overcome them. So what are some of the most significant challenges that companies have today, and how can they overcome them?
They have to understand, is it a real challenge, or is there something else causing that? Okay. So you have to know what the real problem is. Okay.
Yeah.
You have to know, is it something I can affect or impact or not? Okay. Once the hurricane comes, and if it was 180 mile an hour winds, I'm going to suffer the consequences. Okay. But because I had information early enough and I knew the track of the storm, I wound up spending mine on the east coast of Florida instead of the west coast. And we did have mandatory evacuation, but I evacuated earlier, didn't have those lines. I stayed at a beautiful place and got comp rooms where I was. It was, so if you plan your future better and look at your options better, your life will be better. And there's certain simple options, and there's some that are big leaps. Most people don't take the leap ones, but they're there, just like me walking in off the street, and walking out with that job. Again, it's all relative to that particular situation. But I think people either panic too quickly, or they assume that that door is closed. It might be closed, but the back door is open, my friend, or something else, or go to a different place where the door is more likely open, or find out what they want and need for you to go from being a maybe to the right one. And if you were that person, why would you buy? What value can you bring to that company versus someone else? And and that's why the guy hired me at IBM. No one ever before went and changed that thing and said, I'm worth this. He says, you can do that with me. You can do that with my clients,
There you go.
And I was one of the top guys at IBM. We had one customer that was a customer for many, many years, and I was new, and the other rep was leaving. And if you lose a deal, they credit it against you in your numbers. So he knew that they're sending a letter in it. And in those days, we couldn't compete anymore because of, conflict of interest and whatever. So we wound up that I was going to have to, it's going to hurt my quota and everything. And so I called the president and said, I hear you might be considering changing. I says, yes, I just put the letter in the mailroom. I said, can you do me a favor and can you hold it? And I'd love to just spend 1 hour with you to let you know the consequences of sending that or not. Because we really appreciate you and just want to let you know that, give you more information. So I go there, and he went into the mailroom and he got the cancellation letter, and it was on his desk by where his pen holder was. And we spent an hour, and he ripped it up. And I looked back in his files and saw he was a customer since 1938, when it was the International Business Machine Company, whatever it was. So I made a copy of that, and I framed it, and they had it over in the back, on the back wall there. that he's been a lifelong client. I said, I hate to see you lose the benefit of what we're doing and this and that. So I was one of the top guys at IBM of keeping business where other guys were losing. Because if you just accept it, it's one thing, but the real question is it the right thing for the customer to do? If it's the right thing for them to do to leave, it's just fine. I'll help them move. But
Mhm.
but basically, I want to make sure they can make informed decisions, and I want them to know the consequences of doing it or not.
Thanks, Marty. So I think we're wrapping up now, and I just wanted to give you an opportunity to close out, your closing thoughts on resilient leadership, what it means to you, and what you've learned over the years, and any closing comments you have.
As I mentioned earlier, I believe there's massive untapped and unleveraged opportunity around all of us all the time, just waiting to be harvested. And I'd encourage everyone to adopt an opportunity maximizing mindset. And I'd want to turn myself and my company, even my family, into opportunity maximizing masters. Because even personally and professionally, it's all there. We just have to ask ourselves the right questions before we make a decision. And
Hmm.
just asking those questions, you'll find many, many times that, wow, I was undershooting what it could be. There's no guarantees in life, but I can guarantee you'll dramatically increase your probability of success and your probability of harvesting more, faster, and better than you ever did before by adopting certain basic rules and reestablishing and understanding how am I running myself and my business now? And are there things I can do to get ready for getting on that change train? Because I know I have to go there. And I want you to understand the consequences of getting on that journey or not. And if you're smart, I can go in and change companies. And most of what I do now, I want it to be self-funding things. So why should you pay money? Because I can make you money and enough money to cover certainly, what I would charge. So why go and invest in a lot of things that you don't even know yet and it can be obsolete faster? Here's something that will change the rest of people's lives, thinking, planning, making decision making better. So I keep saying the real goal is to capture, replicate, and inculcate the thinking, planning, decision making, and communication of top performers throughout the company and even your family. Because why are you going to maximize things in business? I'd like to maximize the thinking of my kids and my family. So it's a universal thinking that we need as a foundation for getting on the change train.
Well, thank you, Marty. Thank you so much for your words of wisdom. I deeply appreciate it. I deeply appreciate all the time you spent with me. And what I've learned from you is tremendous. Every time we speak, I'm learning. You're truly one of a kind, a very unique individual, and you're very giving. And everybody who's lucky enough to have spent time with you realize that. So I just wanted to thank you from deep down here. So
And
thanks so
Jim,
much, Marty.
and what you're doing, Jim, is awesome. You're putting together an awful lot of individuals who have different skills and technologies and creating synergies for them and the users of that. And there's so much misunderstanding and crazy things happening. And what you're doing is finding people who are vetted, experienced, and have good values and vision and want to link together with others. So we're going to give people integrated solutions. So I know you worked hard putting that together, but the world needs more of what you do.
Well, I appreciate that, Marty. And thank you for everything. I really do appreciate it. Thank you.